Okay, factor completely. The first thing you want to do is look at the numbers and see if you can divide them all by something. The biggest number you can divide them by is what you want to use. And I can divide all of these by 2. And then for your variable, your x, you want to use the smallest exponent. So I have a 5. So after that, you make parentheses for whatever's left over after you're divided. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. You have 7 x's, but you took 5 out, so that's 2 left over. And then you got a minus sign. 14 divided by 2 is 7. You have 6 x's, but you took 5 out, so that's 1 left over. You've got another minus sign. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and you have 5 x's, but you took those out. Now you want to see if you can factor what you have in the parentheses. So here's what you want to do. Because you have a number in front of your squared term, you need to take the first and the last and multiply them. So 5 times 6 equals 30. So I want the factors of 30 that when I subtract them equal 7. If this were a plus sign last, you'd be adding, but I'm going to subtract to get 7. So 30 divided by 1 is 30. That doesn't subtract to get 7. 30 divided by 2 is 15. That's not it. 30 divided by 3 is 10. When you subtract those, you get 7. So what you want to do is copy down the first term and the sign after it. Use the biggest term that works. Use the biggest one first. So that's a 10x. So we have a negative 10x, but we wanted a negative 7x, so that 3 has to be a positive 3x, because what you've just done is taken that middle term and split it into 2 terms, and then copy down the negative 6. Now I'm going to put parentheses around the first 2 terms, and I'm going to factor that. So I can take a 5, I can divide those numbers by 5, and they have an x in common. So you have a 5 divided by 5 is just 1. You have 2 x's. You took 1 out, so that's just 1 x inside. Then you got a minus sign. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And you had an x, but you took it out. Bring down the plus sign after your parentheses. And then don't put parentheses around these. Just look and see what you can divide them by. I can divide them both by 3. So you write that down. So now what you have to do is you have to write down what they had in common. And what was outside of the parentheses, that has to go together. And then the very last step is whatever you divided by at the beginning has to also come down. So now you're finished. That's the answer. Okay, the next one I can divide these by 2. And for my y's, the smallest exponent is a 5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. I have 7 y's. I took 5 out, so that's 2 left. Minus sign. 26 divided by 2 is 13. I have 6 y's, but I took 5 out, so that's 1 left. Plus sign. 12 divided by 2 is 6. I have 5 y's, but I took those out. So you come over here, you multiply the first and the last term together. So 5 times 6 equals 30. I want the factors of 30 that when I add them, because it's a plus we're adding, add to get 13. So 30 divided by 1 is 30. That won't work. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Nope. 30 divided by 3 is 10. That actually adds up to 13. So it's the same combination we used last time. I'm going to write down my first term and the sign after it. You have to use the biggest term first. So we've got a negative 10x, but we want a negative 13. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have put x there. It's a y. We've got a negative 10y, but we want a negative 13, so that 3 also has to be negative because those 2 middle ones have to add up to the one above it. Bring down the positive 6. Put parentheses around the first 2 terms. I can divide those by 5, and they have a y in common. So I have a 5 and 2 y's. I took a 5 and a y out, so that's 1 y left over, minus sign. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and I have a y there, but I took it out. Bring down the sign after your parentheses, which is a minus. Look at the next 2 sets of number and see what you can divide those by. We can divide those by 3. So you write down what you have in the parentheses, and then whatever's outside of the parentheses also has to be written down together, and then whatever you took out at the very beginning must come down into your final answer. On the next one, there's nothing I can divide the numbers all by, but the u's, my smallest exponent is a 4. So I have 6 u's, but I took 4 out, so that's 2 left, plus sign. I've got a 17 and 5 u's, but I took 4 u's out, so that's a 17 and 1 u left, plus sign. I have 74 and 4 u's, but I took 4 u's out, so that's just a 74 left. Okay. This one's a little bit different because you don't have a sign in front of your squared term. You can do it like this. Just keep the u to the 4th. I'm going to make 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to split my u's up evenly. Since everything's positive, everything's going to stay positive and work backwards. The factors of 74 that when I add them equal 17. Well, let's see what we got here. 74 divided by 1 is 74. 74 divided by 2 is 37. 74 divided by 3 does not work. 74 divided by 4 is 4 goes into 7 one time. Oh, I don't think that works either. 4 goes into 7 one times 34. Nope, it doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. 74 divided by 6 doesn't work. 7 doesn't work. 8 doesn't work. 9 doesn't work. 10. Nope. 11. Nope. 12. No. Okay. If you cannot get a combination to work, then at this point right here, you've got your answer. You're finished.